This is Iona, Air's newest monophonic synth created for desktop and MPC standalone. Created and inspired by the well-regarded and classic synthesizer from the 1980s. The original hardware synth's design was quite simple, so practical, and it set itself apart from the many popular polysynths of the day with its identifiable snappy bass and lead-centric sound. The 101 experienced a rebirth and a huge upsurge in the late 80s to early 1990s. Now that very same sound and design aesthetic comes into play with Iona. Let's start with a low-frequency oscillator, the LFO, on the left, with sync control, speed, and the classic shape knob, with ramp up, down, triangle, sine, square, positive square, which flips the inversion, 2 randoms, and of course, noise. The combination of the LFO speed slider and shape dial in the modulator section can apply direct modulation to the VCO for variations in pitch, and to the VCF to add modulation to the filter frequency by simply adjusting the mod sliders. The VCO, the voltage-controlled oscillator, is the main sound generator for Iona, designed and focused around the classic sound of the 101. It features a modulation slider, abbreviated to mod, for adding unique pitch variations with help from the LFO. There's an octave dial to raise or lower the initial octave range of the oscillator. There's also a classic PWM slider for introducing pulse width modulation that exclusively targets the pulse waveform. In turn, this can be affected from the LFO manually or from the envelope source from minimum to maximum. Adjusting the PWM slider fattens up the sound of the single oscillator. The oscillator source section of Iona controls the mix of classic waveforms that alter and manipulate the overall sound of Iona and consist of 4 sliders. Here, you'll find a square pulse width modulation wave, a sawtooth wave, a flip-flop circuit-style and tunable sub-oscillator, which is divided by 3 octaves based around 3 square wave shapes, and of course, the noise generator. With Iona, you can create a big sound with a very small set of controls in the source mixer section. Another important section of Iona is the VCF, the voltage-controlled filter. This is where you'll find your low-pass filter slider and the resonance slider. Additional control is offered from the envelope slider. This function controls the actual depth of envelope modulation that applies back to the VCF itself. There's a modulation slider which increases the depth of LFO modulation and its current value to the VCF. The last control in the VCF section is the keyboard slider. This controls the amount by which the oscillator cutoff frequency changes by following the pitch of the keyboard up and down. The panel interface for Iona continues to the right with a classic envelope section designed around the legendary 101. It features a trigger section that determines how the envelope is initiated, including a gate and trigger mode. The heart and soul of the envelope section is the ADSR. There's attack, decay, sustain, and release, helping you dial in that classic Iona sound just how you want it. As you move to the middle section of Iona, you'll find the arpeggiator. The ARP section is genuinely classic in its own right, with all the basic controls. There are control buttons for pattern styles, including up. To the right, you'll see the octave buttons, 1 through 3. Let's check out the down pattern in the arpeggiator as we roll through the different patterns. The speed dial to the far left can be controlled by your DAW's clock source and with various timings. With the flick of a switch from the DAW to LFO, you can control the speed of your ARP and sequencer with precision from the LFO speed slider up above, adding even more creative control. Below all the main panel parameters, you'll find the effects section. Iona has 4 powerful effects. There's Lo-Fi, which features a discrete bit crushing and sample rate reduction slider. There's a robust and very retro-sounding delay that can be simple and basic all the way to a dub and tape style with infinite feedback and a wonderful resonance feature. Next, we have Iona's reverb effect, which has a wonderful character and a surprisingly rich and deep ambient space when you need it. It also has a nifty modulation speed knob that adds spring and otherworldly type texture to the overall reverb sound. And last but not least, a colorful EQ section, featuring a classic 3-band layout to help sculpt and texture your sound. The sequencer of Iona has special controls for recording steps, playback, inserting ties, rest, and legato. This opens up a world of possibilities with step sequencing and harnesses the old school and traditional style of step sequencing. Let's look at a basic single step entry. Simply click on a step window along the bottom row to activate the step. You can select the timing of the gate to open or close by increasing or decreasing its value in the gate window for each step. Enter the notes by chromatic value by dragging the black horizontal note line up and down. Or click on the note value at the top to open the note menu and select it that way. Now let's expand the sequence length and get creative. You can set your sequence length on the far right and can have it as short as 2 steps or as long as 128, allowing any step length in between. Adjusting these to even and odd step lengths in total can create really interesting timing and feel with your sequence in Iona. Each step can be viewed in incremental sections of 16 steps across the sequencer panel. With 128 steps, there's a lot of room to work with. Let's reset Iona Sequencer and select the Record button to enter some notes with our keyboard MIDI controller. After you enter a step, Iona will move to the next step window as you enter a new note. As we record our notes, we can enter a note tie or a rest. Let's select the play button and trigger our new sequence. Now we can move the gate slider all the way up to select our legato steps. You can select the gate length for each note entered as well. You can also remove steps along the bottom. And finally, we can transpose the entire sequence on the fly for quick key changes. For the legato notes we entered in our step sequence, we can engage the legato switch and increase the portamento rate to get that classic glide and bend. Iona comes with a huge amount of presets to get you started. Simply click the category and find your sound. From classic 101 sounds of yesteryear to modern inspirational presets. With Iona, you can do so much with so little. The true nature of the 101 sound you know and love is evident in each sequence step, each turn of the pulse width slider, every strategic entry of the classic onboard step sequencer. Check out Iona today at airmusictech.com and the mpcstore.com.